Well, hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Young, class of 2008. I was course 6 and 18. I worked most of my time as my career as a software engineer, but a few years ago, I got into plant-based diet and cooking. I'm always interested in cooking. I'm an aspiring chef. No, not anywhere close to where Patricia is. She's a professional. But I love cooking since I was young. And I also finished my nutrition school last year. So I'm also a health coach now. I just want to, I actually run a cooking class at the Club of DC. Patricia and I have done this 3 times already, right? In the past few months. And every time I introduce 3 dishes and maybe, if time permits, 1 drink as well. And basically we do live demonstration so people get an idea of how to do plant-based cooking at home. And it worked really well because of the pandemic. And Patricia was always there to provide tips because she's a professional chef while I was cooking. So I'm guessing Patricia is going to do the same thing, providing you with a lot of cooking tips. And so today, because it's only half an hour, so usually we run this for 2 hours at the Club at DC. But because today is only half an hour, so I'm just going to do a very simple dish and a drink if there's time. I believe there is. So we'll get started now. So this is, Patricia, this is something I've done before. You've helped me before, and it's the pesto pasta. So plant-based cooking, I'm not sure if everyone knows what it's about. I'm guessing you have heard of the term plant-based, but what does it really mean? It really means, if you've heard of vegetarian, I'm sure everybody knows. And then you go 1 step beyond that, which is vegan. Vegan means you don't just not eat meat. You also don't eat. Oh, thanks, Natalie. You don't just not eat meat, but you also don't eat anything with dairy or eggs. So, for example, cheese or what else? Anything with milk, really, ice cream. But there are vegan alternatives for everything, basically. I eat a lot of vegan ice cream. They're delicious. I cannot honestly tell the difference. But
you mentioned honey too.
Yeah, so honey is non-vegan because it's animal product or byproduct. So I think there's a lot to learn, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. So it's always better to just eat more plants. It's better for your health, better for animals, and better for the planet. So we're gonna get started on the first dish, which is the pesto pasta. So usually pesto, if you've made it before, it has Parmesan cheese, and that's where dairy comes in. And then what else does it have that's not plant-based? Oh, so sorry. So plant-based and vegan are sort of different. So if you're talking about plant-based, it's not as strict as vegan, right? And vegan would be like, for example, honey, as Patricia just mentioned, honey can be plant-based. So plant-based really means you eat a largely plant-based diet, whereas vegan is very strict. And vegan, sometimes people think is a lifestyle as well. For example, I don't use leather, and that has nothing to do with what I eat. But so a lot of vegans are also lifestyle vegans. They're not just dietary vegans. So with that, I'm gonna get started on the first one, which is pesto pasta. So I'm not going to really demonstrate how to cook pasta today because I believe everyone knows how to do it. So I'm not going to waste my time. I'll just show you how to make a vegan or plant-based version pesto.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just add, when you're cooking pasta, make sure you salt the pasta water before you cook the pasta so your pasta is not bland. It actually has some flavor to it.
Cool. So let me change the angle. anyone has question, I cannot really monitor the chat, so someone can read me the questions if there are some questions in the chat. So here's a food processor. I have a large one, but this is a little one, which works really well for this dish, the amount I need. So I washed the basil leaves and I kind of destemmed it. But you don't really have to, because the stem tastes, it's nutritious and you don't have to completely remove the stems. It takes time too. So you just throw everything in. And here is about 100 grams. It works. This is not so strict. This dish is very forgiving. If you really love basil, you can add more. If you don't like it, you can add less. Sometimes I also do half basil and half spring mix. So just throw in whatever you want, really, but at least have some basil in it because the flavor is really important. It comes from the basil. So just put everything in the food processor. So next would be the nuts. So with 100 grams, so I've tested this many times. I come up with the kind of proportion I personally really like. So it's about 100 grams of basil works really well with about 150 grams of nuts. And the traditional pesto is using pine nuts. But sometimes I do mostly pine nuts, but I would add maybe almond or Brazil nut or pistachio or hemp seeds and pumpkin seeds. So today, what I'm going to do is 100 grams of pine nuts, which is.
And if possible, toast any nut that you use to bring out the fragrance of the nuts. The best temperature to toast it at is, if you're doing it in the oven, is 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 325. You want to do low heat for a longer time.
So sometimes I would, yeah, it's true. It's better to toast your nuts before you use them. But sometimes I'm just too lazy to do it. And also it's very dangerous because especially pine nuts, they burn really fast. So you have to be watching it very closely if you want to do it. And so here, sometimes I don't do it in the oven. If I do toast it, I would actually use it do it on a pan. And I would just constantly stir it. But today I'm not using toasted version, so it'll work well too. So I'm gonna this is 100 grams of pine nuts. So because I want 150 grams, and this is only 100 grams, and so today I'm gonna do 25 grams of pumpkin seeds as well. I guess everyone knows what pumpkin seeds is. Sometimes they are called pepita. It's just another name, but it's pumpkin seeds. And then I'm not sure this next one, I need 25 grams of another seed or nut, right? So sometimes I would add this. This is called hemp seed or hemp heart. So a lot of people ask me, when you go plant-based or when you go vegan, how do you address the protein content, right? A lot of people think, oh, protein, you just eat tofu or tempeh or maybe some garbanzo beans or those kind of things. But actually, hemp seeds work really well. They have very high protein content. The only thing is you cannot really heat it up. So the oil in it is not very stable. So you don't want to heat it up and just, but it works really well in this dish because we're not going to heat it up. So I'm gonna use 25 grams of this. And here's a scale I have.
Yeah, it's amazing how much protein are in hemp hearts.
Yeah. And I would recommend get the Canadian. So here I have USDA organic. Here, I think it's organic hemp seeds from, or hemp hearts from Canada. I would recommend this. I get this from Costco. You cannot really taste it. And you can just put it on everything, really. If you have a morning smoothie, or if you have a smoothie bowl, you have salads or whatever, you can just put some on top, or even soup. Just put some on top, and you'll get a lot of protein, and they're really healthy for you. So this is 25 grams. I'm going to put it in. And then next would be, we want 3 large cloves of garlic. So mine are not large, so I'm using 4. And then an easier way to, I don't really peel it because it's really difficult to peel garlic, if you know. So what I'm gonna do is put it on a cutting board and then just press it, and then get rid of the ends. There you go, really simple and quick. Another one. 3.
Sherry, I know it's later in DC where you are, but here it's just about noon, so perfect lunch would be this pesto pasta.
Wish I could send these to you. I'm not gonna eat it right now. So I got the garlic in. Sorry, I have to wash my hand. And then next would be, well, half a cup of olive oil. So I use extra virgin olive oil. This I also got from Costco. It's organic and it's from Italy. So I really love this one. And it's super cheap at Costco, but good quality. So we want half a cup of that. Oh, another tip is, if you're afraid of oil, or you want to reduce your oil consumption, one thing you can do, but this has to, you have to kind of eat it right away. You can just use avocado to substitute. Instead of you putting olive oil in, you can just use avocado. But as you know, avocado turns brown, so you just make it right before you eat it and finish it. Or do half, whatever you like. But because I'm gonna put it in a jar and just store it and eat it later, so I will just use olive oil, and we want half a cup. And then next would be 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. So I need to talk a little bit about nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is what plant-based or vegans use as a cheesy substitute. It tastes like cheese, but it's not a dairy product. So if you want to taste like cheese, you can try to use this. It looks like this. It's like flakes, and they're dry, but they're also very nutritious. A lot of the nutritional yeast in the market, they are fortified with vitamin B12. My version is not, but most of them do. So you also get that because a lot of people are worried about B12. So we want 3 tablespoons of that. Here, this is a tablespoon. 1, 2, 3. So again, so these dishes are not, I picked this because it's simple and also because it's very forgiving and you don't have to be so precise. Sometimes I can add up to maybe double the amount of nutritional yeast. It really depends. You can do whatever you want, really. And then next would be half a teaspoon of salt. So salt here, I found the salt here is not enough if you want to later mix it with pasta. But I always do less salt because you can always add more later. So I just do less right now, which is half a teaspoon. Also, if you're serving other people, they can add their own amount of salt later. So everyone will be happy. I believe the next thing would be just lemon juice. Yep, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So here's the lemon. As Patricia suggested last time, it's always good to use the skin. So we're gonna do it this time.
Yeah, lemon, so lemon zest or zest of any citrus is a great way to add the aromatics of a citrus without adding too much, well, without adding any acidity. So that's why when I use citrus, I usually, especially when I'm cooking at home, I'll use the zest before and add in zest before I juice the citrus.
Yep, it's just easier that way. Like what I'm doing now. It's a whole fruit right now.
And what Sherry is using in terms of the tool is called a microplane. For those of you who have not seen that before, it is great for removing just the outer layer of the zest without getting the white bitter pith. And microplanes are a great tool to have. It's useful for any number of things if you want to do some grated ginger or garlic or any number of things. And they have different sizes for even cheese.
Yeah. So I would add that be very, very careful when you're zesting this because just get the outermost very thin layer of the skin. Otherwise, it's really bitter. That's what I did just now. I mean, I only got the thin layer. Oh, and always roll it. If you want to get more juice out of this, just roll it, press and roll it before you even cut it. This way, more juice will come out. So we want 2 tablespoons. And here's a lemon press.
And it's always good to juice fresh juice right when you're about to use it. Citrus juice in terms of freshness and flavor, acidity really only lasts for 1 day for optimal flavor.
Yeah. And another tip is I never throw this away. I either put it in a cup of hot water, just and it becomes lemon water. And then afterwards, I would throw it into the garbage disposer. If you have one in your kitchen, and turn it on, it'll make your kitchen smell really fresh and lemony, which is what I'm doing after I put it in the water. I need another tablespoon of lemon juice. All right. So I think that's all we need for the pesto, and let's just blend everything together. So some people want it a little bit chunkier. Some people like it to be really smooth. It's really up to yourself. It's a personal preference. So usually I just do until I don't know if you can see. Like that. So you still see a little bit of the pine nuts. You really want to show off your expensive ingredients, right? So just leave some pine nuts in there. And then when you're serving the dish, also garnish with some pine nuts, like whole pine nuts, and that'll work well too.
So Tucker asked a very interesting question. He asked, is it possible to make pesto without a mixer? And I'd like to address that very quickly. So traditional pesto is made in a mortar pestle because the process of grinding the garlic makes the pesto, and the whole process of using the mortar pestle makes it extra creamy. And if you look at the World Pesto Championships, and yes, it does exist, everybody uses a mortar and pestle, and that's the traditional and best way of making pesto. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, so we're just being lazy here. Okay, so we're done with this, and then what you're gonna do is just serve it with pasta, and maybe throw in some spinach or other things to make it more, just add more veggies in it. And then you'll have the pesto pasta. And so now we have another 6 minutes. I'm gonna do a drink very quickly. I'm gonna heat up the water to 160 degrees, and so the drink is going to be a matcha latte. I'm not sure everybody knows what matcha is. Matcha is a green tea, Japanese green tea, young green tea leaves, and they put shade on it at the beginning, and then they harvest it, and then they it's not really roasted, right? They're just they grind them into powder, so it becomes this very bright green color. I don't have much left, but it looks like this.
So the matcha is the leaves are steamed and dried, and then they're ground into the powder, which Sherry showed. So that's why it remains green like that.
Yeah, the better the quality, the brighter green they are. If you see the like yellowish or dark matcha, that's not good matcha. So matcha has different grades. There's the top grade is ceremonial, and there's also culinary grade, which is good for baking and such, but not really good for drinking. So here, mine version is ceremonial, the highest grade, organic Japanese green matcha. So how many minutes? 5 minutes left. So I have this tool, a little frother. Also because I'm lazy, I don't use the what do you call the whisk, which is what normally people use to do the to stir the matcha into water. But I always use this. It only takes like half a minute to do it. So now I'm heating up the water now to 160 degrees, and then see, it's almost ready.
And while we're waiting for that, so the best way to store your matcha is actually in out of the sunlight in an opaque container, airtight. Matcha is pretty expensive. I drink it every day, several cups. It has great antioxidants. It does have some caffeine, but it's a different kind of caffeine than from coffee, so it doesn't give you the jitters.
Yep. So here's mine is airtight, and I don't put it outside. I actually leave this in my fridge, so it's always in dark place. Here I'm going to take the last bit, mix it in.
And what Sherry did there is really great because you want to add a little bit of liquid into it before you add the powder so it doesn't get stuck on the bottom of your cup.
I always had that problem before, so now I'm smarter. I just put water in first and then put the matcha, and now I'm gonna whisk it. Okay, done. So what I usually do is I add more water and just to wash this off. And then, so now I have, you can use any kind of plant milk really. Here I'm using organic soy milk. It's unsweetened. And I usually serve in my really cute jar here. So I would just put some first. You can also froth the milk, but I'm not gonna do it here. And I'll just pour the matcha in. Not sure you can see well. Here we go, matcha latte. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sherry. That was wonderful.
And I'm going to leave my email here in the chat box in case anyone has questions. And just email me if you want the recipe.